V dalším videu z Nizozemska si představíme společnost EVBox, jednoho z nejstarších a největších výrobců nabíječek elektromobilů v Evropě. EVBox is on the market since 2010, so super early adopter of or offering of the charging infrastructure, and you've been in over 70 countries by now. So what do you see as a European manufacturer? What are the key trends over those years?
Right. So it's important to mention that we started this journey on 2010, right? Where EVBox started developing some of the earliest AC charging solutions. Throughout these years, we've been evolving. So, we started with, maybe people know it, with our business line, EVBox business line, is a station that looks like a tulip. And now we're, for example, replacing those with our stations for residential use and for commercial use. Along those years, we have learned a lot of things, right? We have been growing together with the market as the OEMs keep developing new cars and new technologies. Then we have learned a lot, right? We position ourselves as one of the key global manufacturers. I think we managed to drive policy development, drive new topics in the industry by being a player at the forefront of the industry. I believe if you look at now what are the trends across the globe, we live in a very diverse environment, right? So you have to look at the regions across the world in different manners. And I say this because in my role in EVBox, I look at those countries that are emerging in very early stages, but also at other countries where we see more advanced in the e-mobility industry. So, for example, in the Czech Republic, we have certainly shipped stations to the Czech Republic, but the Czech Republic is not one of those markets that is super advanced with a lot of policies and all the regulatory framework ready, but it's also not one of those countries that are just starting with a few EVs, right? So in terms of trends, it is quite different. If we look at more advanced markets, let's say the Netherlands, where we are today in Amsterdam, in our headquarters, what we see is stations like this. Say, for example, we learned about the importance of sustainability in our materials, right? So the plastic in our stations, both in the Levo and the Levico, is made from sustainable components. It's certified by third party that it is like this. We've learned about the use of, for example, having a fixed cable like in these stations, or having a socket, because it serves different setups. Say, for example, in the Netherlands, people mostly live in buildings that don't have a garage, don't have a parking lot, so they have to rely on public infrastructure. Now, the standard here is that you would carry the cable with you, right? So you can go to any station and plug your cable. Therefore, it is very important for us to produce stations like this that have just a socket, right? Other things that are super important these days in more advanced markets is as people in their homes put solar PV or solar panel installations, and they're worried about their consumption of electricity, especially when there are events in the world that push the price of electricity up. How do they manage? How do they actually charge their car, but then charge at the time that is right? So therefore, our stations are designed to work with either our own solution for dynamic load balancing, right? So that then you can choose at what time or how your car is charged, or we can work with third-party solutions as well through energy management systems that will help you understand or control your consumption, your storage, and your delivery or your output of power through the stations. So I would say that smart component on the AC charging stations is key today. There are markets today where we go, and it's a prerequisite that components like dynamic load balancing or integration with solar PV, it's a requirement. We have to have it in order to be in the market and stay there for the long term.
Mm-hmm. So if we look at the offering you have, this looks like a, sorry for using the term, like a dummy on and off simple solution for homes, right? Which doesn't need to be, if you have first wallbox, you don't need to be too smart about it, right? But you may need, if you are a fully electrified household, you may start to think in terms of load balancing even there, right? Even the first wallbox you have, because you might have whatever heat pump at the same time, heating water, your consumption, and you can run out of your,
expected budget, for example, yeah.
Expected budget, but also the power consumption within your household and the fuse, right? The main fuse.
For us, it is very important that people have the ability to use their home charger as one of those, let's say, equipments that can integrate easily with their heat pump or their solar PV panels. Now, for us, it's also very important, like you're saying, is maybe someone that is using an EV charger for the first time, that also the stations can be easily integrated into their own environment. So for us, in the design of the stations, the mounting of the station is critical. The ease of use is critical as well, right? So for that, we've done quite a few things over the years, right? So for example, the mounting plate at the back, it's super simple, You don't need a lot of guidance, only a few holes, and actually the mounting plate is very similar in the home charging or residential charging, but also in the semi-public or commercial charging. So that people that want to go with an EVBox environment can actually use this in a very seamless way. Now, also the information that you can get out of the LEDs, this is very simple and it has only a few icons. But then the combination of colors and let's say when the light is blinking or not, will give you different information about the status of the vehicle, the status of the charger, and same here. Well, we do it with the LED that has a little bit more information, or with the screen. Now we have learned that over the years, and so then we focus a lot of time into developing a solution that is easy to use. So that a first-time user can actually be comfortable with the use of the EV charger, right? So that when acquiring an EV, it's already a big step for a lot of people, right? Now, getting an EV charger, we don't want that to be another complexity, right? So it should be very easy to use.
At the same time, I would think that the inside, the hardware is actually smart enough, right? That it is ready for once the household decides that they need to work with load balancing, for example, or be smart about the charging times because they're floating on spot prices, etc., then it's ready for that, right?
Correct. And so from that perspective, let's say if you have to open one of our stations, which is, when you're configuring the stations, that's one of the first things that you will do. You basically take off this cover. We make sure that, for example, the screws that go in this cover, they don't drop. You take off the cover and the screws don't get loose. So we make it easy also for the installer, right? Now, once you take out the cover, there's very simple instructions that you have to follow here. You pair it with your phone. You follow the process with your app. So it's very simple to set up. And then after that, you will think about the smart component, the dynamic load balancing, right? So we accompany our solutions with a very small load balancing kit that goes on your meter on your meter board, and then it's as simple as just connecting a few wires, and then you will see the ability, or you will have the ability to organize or control the power consumption, or determine the parameters that you have in your power consumption on your app. Very simple. So once you finalize that, you just take the same cover, close it up, and then you're ready to charge.
By the way, in a country like Netherlands, where you have close to 1 million plug-in cars on the roads by now, out of whatever 8 to 9 million cars registered, how many chargers would there be as of now in combining the home charging for those who have the garage and the public charging for those who live in blocks of flats and they need to use the public charging? What's the ratio?
Oh wow, that's a number that changes by the day, right? We see a lot of new installations happening all over. So the uptake of residential charging has been going up consistently over the years because access to EVs has become better, and people are already embracing the idea that they want and they need an EV charger, an electric vehicle. Therefore, on the residential space, you see a lot. Now, what we call destination charging, which is wherever you have to stop with your vehicle, we find a lot of like these type of chargers available, so that for example, a mall, a small shop, a pharmacy, convenience stores, will start installing a lot of these stations because they see the importance for the driver to stop for a few minutes or maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, and get a little bit of juice for the car. But then finally, also on the highways, and we can particularly see this a lot in the Netherlands, the fast chargers. When you're going from point A to point B across the country, you will find an abundance, and I'm talking in relative terms, of DC chargers that you probably didn't see 2-3 years ago, right? So stations like the EVBox tronic modular at the back are making that difference, along with other peers in the industry, where we see a very strong offer of DC chargers, but also the CPOs, the charge point operators that we work with, are getting a lot of support, a lot of investment, support and investment from also European funds to set up their own stations and make sure that if you're an EV driver, whenever you go from point A to point B, you actually don't have that range anxiety that I guess you talked a lot about in your videos. As an EV driver, in my case today, whenever I go from point A to point B in the Netherlands, I have zero concerns. So going back to your question, getting down to the number, it's hard, but it's just very visible. It's out there in your face that.
But it must be hundreds of thousands, right? For
Absolutely.
sure, for sure.
Absolutely,
absolutely. It can be close to 1-to-1, right? Considering that probably who has a house has a wallbox, right? If they have a EV, and the public charging, the ratio for because in Netherlands, right, you have so many, it must be hundreds of thousands, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but a lot of the public chargers.
Absolutely. Just to give you an idea, right? We, as a European manufacturer, most of our stations have been delivered or shipped in the European Union. Over this course of 14 years that we've been operating, we have shipped more than 500,000 chargers. One of our strongest markets is the Netherlands, right? Is our home. Therefore, a lot of those 500,000 chargers have ended up in the Netherlands, or in France, or in Germany, or in the UK, or in the Nordics, right? But you can fairly say that a very, very strong portion of our deliveries of chargers have actually happened in the Netherlands. And maybe one important case is that back in 2010, 2011, and so on, when there weren't many EVs on the road, the municipalities back then, and we're talking Amsterdam, The Hague, Utrecht, Rotterdam, what they did was actually work with the private sector in order to set up access to public infrastructure. And this is something that allowed the actual driver in the Netherlands to feel confident about having an EV. To me, in my own personal opinion, that has been one of the biggest boosters of EV adoption, because people see it, right? They come out of their home and they see a charger right there. Luckily for us, a lot of those chargers were our public charging stations, and that actually also fueled our growth. So we actually grew together with the infrastructure of the cities, which allowed us to grow as a company as well.
It must be the case because you are, putting aside Norway, you are the front runner within the EU when it comes to EV adoption, right? And there must be some mix of like magic that is happening here, right? It might have been the tax incentives or the financial incentives, but it also is that, as you said, right? How much did the municipalities did for the adoption?
Absolutely, it's a mix of things, right? It's not only our push as a company, it's not only the maybe regulations and the incentives that come with the regulation, it's the private and public players that have helped us push this industry forward.
Back to these like B2B products or the solutions for the public or semi-public charging. It used to be just like a place where you would put your chip and that's it, right? And then you somehow figure it out through the light of the LED that whether it's working or not, right? Now it's getting more sophisticated and it has to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We have learned that over time, people want to feel that this is an intuitive task, right? At the moment they actually plug in their vehicle, that whatever information comes out either from the screen or from the LED, it's actually helping them understand what's happening, right? So actually, I believe I have the charging card with me, right? And so maybe we'll not see it, but then, typically, or maybe here, typically here, that if the station is not connected or if my card is not registered, right, the red color will give you a sign, right? So people are learning that red color or the blue, for example, means that the car is charging, or the yellow means that the car is already fully charged. I believe a lot of people already understand this, and so we've gone an extra step, and realized that you need a screen for ease of use, that you need to have a light sensor over here, because if you have direct sunlight over the screen, then it's not easy to see it. Or for example, one very cool feature that you can see in these stations is that whenever the car is charging, the actual blue light is coming from below to the top. So it's dynamic. So it gives people the feeling that your battery is kind of filling up, So yeah, absolutely, key features that we...
But at the same time, the display will start to be needed, right? Because there has to be a pricing transparency.
Correct.
Or dynamic pricing, for example, right? That you will be scanning like dynamic QR code, which can be different in the morning or during the day when there's a lot of sunshine and electricity is basically free of charge, on the grid, right?
Yeah, exactly. And your comment makes me think of those times where people had to carry a ton of charging cards, because for every single network you would need your own charging card, and therefore you were a bit blind, right? You just go anywhere, and then you know that with this card you get one kind of tariff, with this other card you get another kind of tariff, but then that gets confusing. And so as industry has evolved, the roaming agreements have also become more widely available, so that maybe with just one card you can just charge anywhere. But then at the same time you're like, okay, but what is my tariff here? What am I actually paying for this? One of the premises for me to get an EV was that it would be cheaper, right? It would be much cheaper than gasoline. So I actually want to see that the number over here matches my expectations. And so one of the things that we see when we're promoting EVBox out in the market, we say we're going from that time of revolution, EV charging revolution, to the electric era. And then the users of the electric era are actually people that are more knowledgeable, more savvy, that they want to know what to expect out of their charging, right? They have already come across that or overcome that fear of getting an EV. Now they want to understand that their EV charging transaction is actually giving them what they expect. So absolutely, that's important, and we will keep it in our stations, of course.
So when we move from the AC world where you started to the DC world, the fast charging, right? So what are the major trends there? This looks like a big box. It will be probably super powerful, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, same as in the DC, in the AC space, in DC we have a lot of stories to tell. So our actual story with DC charging starts also back in 2010. we didn't grow this capability of manufacturing DC charging organically. We actually acquired the company in France back in 2017 that had already a history of developing DC chargers, right? So when we realized the importance of offering an integrated solution where people can come to us for a home charger or semi-public charging or a fast DC charger, then we saw there's actually a difference to make in the market where we can offer all sorts of solutions, right? So like I said, we acquired a company and then we rebranded it as EVBox, and so we started producing DC chargers out of Bordeaux in France. And yeah, so back then we started with 50 kilowatts, which is already, it's already too little as a power for, at least for a highway, for example, as a use case. But then we also introduced that first solution of 350 kilowatts. So we had a big power unit with a dispenser that could handle 350 kilowatts. It was actually 2 big power units. But then we learned that exactly that wasn't the use case that we wanted to pursue. We wanted to have a standalone solution where you can actually have all the power concentrated here. So
the power box is inside, basically. It's combined solution, right?
Correct. And so we went from maybe using a big converter, a big transformer in a 50 kilowatt solution to actually come with very small, easy to actually carry power modules. So our power modules here, just for your understanding, are 30 kilowatts. We do either 30 kilowatts or 40 kilowatts, but then they're very, very, very small. And so we can stack them up here. And so the reason the station is tall is because we can bring up to 8 of those power modules here. So one of the trends or one of the learnings that we understood is that people want to invest in something that is future-proof, right? So maybe today the need in a certain market is for 100 kilowatts or 150 kilowatts because most of the vehicles is actually what they ask for, right? So we understand that in an EV charging operations, the vehicle is the master, right? So if the vehicle is asking for 150 kilowatts, this is what the station can provide.
With 4 modules, for example.
Correct. And so if we think about it, it's going to be 5 modules of 30 kilowatts, then you get 150 kilowatts. So if the car is able to request 150 kilowatts, this is what the station is going to deliver. But then going back to that future-proofing, right? The station can accommodate up to 8 power modules. So then you can have 240 kilowatts in this one. You don't need them today, but in 2-3 years or less, there's going to be a lot of cars that can take a lot more power. And there's quite a lot today. Well, a Tesla, right? Tesla can get around 200 kilowatts, and so it's a reality today. So those customers that maybe last year or a couple of years ago got this type of station, and they see more vehicles like Tesla on the road, they will start thinking, maybe that station that was 90 kilowatts, I should upgrade it. I should have 150. I should have 210. I should have 240. And then they have the ability to do it with just one machine.
Your most powerful DC station is 400 kilowatts. It's in the same package, in the same box?
Same housing, yeah, that's correct. And so the way we did this, right, coming from the 30 kilowatt modules to the 40 kilowatt modules that we use in the Tronic high power, is basically we find is technology advancement. So we found a way to have power modules that are actually more powerful but smaller in size. So that allows us to accommodate up to 10 modules in the same housing to deliver 400 kilowatts. Now, people might think, but why 400 kilowatts? Right? There are cars cannot take, for at least regular passenger EVs cannot take 400 kilowatts. Now, the idea is that with the proliferation of, or the stronger adoption of EV use, you might need to be using your station from both guns, right? So in a 400 kilowatt station, you can actually deliver safely and reliably 200 kilowatts on both sides of the station. So you can actually park 2 Teslas, Model Y, and get 200 kilowatts simultaneously from the same piece of hardware.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there will be more and more electric trucks on the roads, for example, exactly. which need high power, right? That for them it will be normal, like that they could utilize 400 kilowatts, right? Or buses, right?
Exactly. And we see that more and more often, right? I can think of a few examples. Let's say one of our customers in the UAE started serving a company that has a strong fleet of trucks, electric trucks, and their charging power it's quite elevated. Therefore, we found a way of catering to that use case by having a station at the very beginning 240 kilowatts, which is just good for that vehicle. But we know that same truck manufacturer is going to use is going to increase the capacity of the batteries to allow for more power and for higher charging rates. Now, what we foresee is that they will quickly change from using 240 kilowatts for the truck that they have today to using the 400 kilowatt station. And the good thing is, right, they can rely on a technology that they know today, on a supplier, manufacturer that they know today. In some instances, we also supply the software for them. So it's all for them an easy transition from a certain power level to a higher power level.
Because we are converting from AC in the grid to DC for the car, there's an energy transition which generates heat, which has certain efficiency, right?
Yes.
So could you elaborate on these two topics? What is the efficiency, with the modern ones? Are we moving to, for example, silicon carbide, chips or electronics inside, which is more efficient, more energy efficient? Yeah. And how about to get rid of all that heat? Yeah. As part of the inefficiency, considering that you are implementing in countries like UAE Correct. Or Qatar, where you have 55 degrees of Celsius in summer.
Exactly. Yes, and so that topic is super important for us. We have to find a way to manage the ambient temperature, but also the temperature inside the station so that all components can safely operate, right? So what we have done about that, and specifically because we have a lot of deployments in the Middle East, where temperatures can go way above 50 degrees Celsius, is in our manufacturing facility, we installed a climate chamber where we can put these machines inside and have them tested at different temperatures, right? Now, we do the testing at home and in-house, but also we test with third parties so that we, in our data sheets, we can say that you can safely operate some of, our DC stations at 55 degrees. Now, but that comes with a lot of technology developments, a lot of research into how do you actually manage to operate a station at such high temperatures. So some of the things is how we position the components internally, how we give the opportunity for the station to ventilate, but also how we use, for example, fans internally that dissipate the heat more effectively. So yes, so we look at components, we look at the design of the station, and we look at our own testing to make sure that the station can safely and reliably provide the power that it's supposed to provide.
And the efficiency, I would understand that it's not, if it's 400 kilowatt station, there's a different efficiency if you charge at 50 kilowatt, 100 kilowatt, 250 kilowatt, and the 400 kilowatt. But is there any answer? What is the general efficiency of these machines?
So the efficiency it's limited, in some instances by the components, but it's also by what the cables can take, right? So cables can, for example, deliver full power only for a certain period of time, right? So the cables that we use can typically sustain full power, at least in the Tronic high power series. We can sustain high power, the maximum power of the station for about 20 minutes or more, right? I believe up to 30 minutes in our cables, meaning that you can have a very powerful session where you are actually receiving, let's say, the 200 kilowatts or 240 kilowatts that you're supposed to take in a session or during the 30 minutes of that session. Meaning you can actually get what the station is supposed to deliver, so efficiency is the maximum. And so regarding the point of efficiency, right, what we expect is the station, depending on the temperature and the ambient conditions, you know, that can vary. But generally, 98% of efficiency is what you can expect from our DC chargers, if not above.
Carlos, what is OCPP 2.0.1, the Open Charge Point Protocol?
Got it, okay. It's a very important topic, right? So there has to be a way for hardware, so for chargers, to talk with software. Software that can actually manage or control the hardware, right? So more and more we see the need for those who own or operate chargers to take control of the charging operations, to take control of problems, to remotely see what's happening with the stations. And so that language that can be established for hardware and software to talk is OCPP, so the Open Charge Point Protocol. Now, OCPP was developed, or actually you can trace the roots of OCPP back to the Netherlands, where the protocol was developed in an effort of actually being able to remotely control stations and have a way for hardware and software to talk. Now, you talk about OCPP 2.0.1, right? It sounds complicated, but the number just means that there's a version of OCPP today. Now, a lot of the stations that you can find publicly available are running OCPP 1.6, meaning that a lot of the hardware manufacturers and software manufacturers actually agreed on that version of the protocol. And you know, from our point of view, we invested and actually supported the development of OCPP because having just one language will help everyone harmonize around EV charging and support the adoption of EV use. Now, if you think about it, if you have one single language, it means for us as a hardware manufacturer that people using different software can include our chargers in their software, and be it a fleet operator or a big charge point operator, right? And we do it with every single of our chargers. So all of them are running OCPP. And then going back to OCPP 2.0.1, right, which is basically the latest development on OCPP, there are a few things that this latest version of OCPP is enabling, right? So things like, for example, what you call V2G, you know, vehicle to grid. And so things like plug and charge, they allow for basically the hardware to be able to authenticate the car automatically. And so then you don't necessarily have to get out or bring a token or a charge card in order to authorize a transaction, right? So basically the car and the hardware will talk directly, and so this information will flow through the to the software, where the information of the transaction can be registered, so you can understand how much energy has been delivered, how long the transaction was, if there are any problems, you can see the logs of the transactions, and so on. So OCPP is the next frontier of OCPP 2.0.1 is the next frontier of communication between hardware and software. Now, not a lot is a very, I would say, it's a very recent development. So it's not the norm in the industry today. However, all of our products, all of the products that we have seen today are capable of running OCPP 2.0.1. Also, our software, the software that we develop is running also OCPP 2.0.1, and we are actually encouraging our partners on the software side to move quickly onto 2.0.1 because it's actually enabling a lot of things for EV users, right? So if you, in your home, you have an EV and you actually want to take the power stored in the batteries of your car and supply it back to the grid, right? You will need this protocol to support that transaction. So yeah, we definitely believe in this is another topic, future-proofing your investment into an EV charger. And yeah, very, very happy to support that development.
A to je vše, přátelé, děkuji pěkně za dosledování dalšího videa. Jsem Jan Staněk a od roku 2019 se snažím inspirovat milion lidí k přechodu na elektromobil a čistou energii. Budu moc rád za vaše názory, dotazy a komentáře k tématu výroby nabíječek na elektromobily. A moc děkuji velvyslanectví Nizozemského království za spolupráci na tvorbě tohoto videa. Mějte krásný, energický den.